Good morning, I'm Steve Botari, in for Adam Sexton. Thanks for joining us here this Sunday. Well, with every legislative session, we see a flurry of bills related to education, a battle between those who may want state control to be increased in the system and those who want to maintain more strong local control. Mix in all of that over the last few years with concerns about parental rights and certain parts of the curriculum being appropriate. And of course, there's school performance, especially in the light of a post-COVID comeback. So our guest to discuss all of this morning is Education Commissioner Frank Edelblut. Commissioner, thanks so much for being here with us. Great to see you.
Good morning. Happy to be here and looking forward to this conversation.
So let's start with the last thing we were discussing, this kind of post-COVID comeback. COVID was tough for kids. The data bears that out, and New Hampshire, like every other state, saw some regression. So when we look at the academic success of kids here in the Granite State, are we past all of that, or is that something we're still dealing with?
Yeah, so we're still dealing with it, and we'll probably still be dealing with it for some time. But really what you have to do is you have to kind of take apart what's going on in terms of student performance. And really what COVID did is it revealed to us some underlying things that were taking place, not just because of COVID, but really leading into COVID for decades, really. And so we had seen some, leveling off or some declining in student performance. And then really what happened as a result of COVID is we saw an acceleration of that decline. And that was a reality here in New Hampshire. It was a reality across the country. But we put a lot of effort in. We received an enormous amount of funding from the federal government for COVID relief funds. Those were directed at programs to try and mitigate that accelerated loss for students. In New Hampshire, we have fared well. We saw kind of a turnaround and some acceleration back into kind of that same place as to where we were before the pandemic. But as I tell people all the time, we don't want to rush ourselves back to there. We have higher aspirations than that, right? So the good news is that we are recovering out of COVID. The bad news is we're not where we want to be.
Yeah, it's not just going back to 2019 levels and that everything's great. We want to see continued progress in those fields.
Correct. We're looking for progress, and we want to really try and figure out and untangle why were we seeing, for the decades leading into that, some flat results. And in particularly what we saw in the system is some of our, certain demographics of students were underperforming, right? So I've got my high-performing students sort of holding their own, but I've got my disadvantaged, my economically disadvantaged students in particular, falling farther behind. So we really see a gap developing in that system.
Well, and where does, say like the tutoring program, the summer programs, where does that fall into all of that?
Yeah, so some of my favorite programs. Thanks for bringing that up. I really appreciate that. Well, I'm going to start with the summer camp program, really. The summer camp program, so we are now in our 4th year of programming. It is a program that basically provides scholarships to economically disadvantaged students to be able to attend camps across the state of New Hampshire. And where that came about was during the pandemic, and at the end of the pandemic, I was on calls with state leaders from across the country talking about how are we going to mitigate these learning losses that you pointed out. And a lot of the conversations centered around doing things like Saturday school, extended school days, summer school for everybody. And I was like, no kid ever was going to come up with that idea. I said, really what the kids need to do is we need to just let them be kids again. And that's really what we gave birth to, rekindling curiosity. Every kid goes to camp. And so we created an opportunity for students here in the state of New Hampshire to be able to get to camp. And we've seen like close to 3,000 have already been. And we're going to be well over 4,000 students who have attended those camps. And we did something really unique there. So our camps in the state of New Hampshire really stepped up to the plate. And they've done a great job with these kids. We also partnered with the Community Behavioral Health Association to, while those students are in those camps, some of our kids had some mental health issues coming out of COVID as well, to try and deal with those. And so it was really a full package.
Wraparound services as well.
Wraparound services,
Now,
exactly.
Obviously, when we're talking about education, programs cost money. Your department put out a release last month noting that New Hampshire's average cost per student is now in excess of $20,000, considerably higher than the national average, sitting somewhere around $14K or so. I'm going to quote you to yourself, so hold on a second. You said this is a challenging environment of escalating costs and decreasing student enrollment. So what does that mean for the state?
Yeah, so just kind of tying into our previous conversation. So these COVID programs really were funded through the COVID relief funds, right? We received these extraordinary funds from the federal government, and we've been deploying those to kind of make up the loss for the students. When you talk about the average cost per pupil, which we just talked about, and every year we release it in January, it's kind of a typical thing that we do. Again, we crossed over a threshold. For the first time, our average cost per pupil is over $20,000 per student in terms of how much our taxpayers are contributing to the education system. And So what we really want to think about relative to that is when we're funding this education system, are we getting what we want out of the system for the amount that we're paying? And I think that's the question that is faced by most communities these days.
And what does that look like to you?
So it depends. There are and again, the thing about education is a very different circumstance. Like, you might have a certain expectation for education. I may have a certain expectation for education. But we all together have to come together as a community and figure out what is our objective for this education system and how are we going to make sure that our resources that we're contributing are going to be deployed in a way that we're going to get the best outcome for our investment and the best outcome for our children.
Now, where does EFAs fall into this conversation? The education freedom accounts. We saw in the legislature that they've been trying to expand this program. It didn't pass, but they tried to open it all to all. Now they're considering raising the income cap. It would allow about 2/3 of kids 6 to 17 to be eligible, cap raised to about $156,000 for a family of 4. There's 4,500 students in this program right now. How far would you like to see this program go?
So what I'd like to see this program go is to get to every student who needs this kind of a program. What we've seen, and again, going back to the beginning of this conversation, we talked about student performance. And when we talk about the students' academic achievement in the system, we know as a state we still are underperforming, leaving many students behind. And we have proficiency rates of 44% or 48% in math and English. We know that not enough students are meeting our aspirations. And it's not that the teachers are not in there and are working hard to try and get the job done, but not every student fits in every single educational setting. And so what an education freedom account really does is it affords every student an opportunity to find an education setting where they can be successful. Because really the ultimate goal of an education system is that students get educated. Not that they go through the system, but that they get educated. And so as we as a state and as taxpayers, if we're going to invest money in education, we want to make sure that we're getting something for that.
Yeah, we've heard this argument about, it touted as a way to, if the public system isn't working, perhaps a private system or homeschooling. So far, the data shows that's just the minority using this program so far. 72% of the EFAs went to parents of students who were already in private school or homeschooled. So just 28% were most recently enrolled in public school. So is this just subsidizing parents who are essentially already doing that?
Yeah, well, so these parents are also taxpayers. So essentially what we're saying is we've got economically challenged. So these are middle and low income families who are finding a way to say, like, the education system, the public education system, is not meeting the needs of my child. And so I'm going to make sacrifices as a family to make sure that my child can have an education that's going to fit for them. And so essentially what we're doing is we're saying, like, yeah, that's important to us because we as a state are interested in the success of our children, not in funding a particular system. So what we're trying to say is, let's focus on funding the success of the children rather than funding a particular system.
In essence, though, wouldn't it be money that wasn't being spent and is now being spent? This is new spending?
Yeah, but it is in terms of if a student is already in a non-public school and they receive an EFA, but as you pointed out, I've got 28% of the students were in public education, and those students are now in some of these other settings as well. And if you look at the cost associated with it, an education freedom account costs the taxpayers $5,000. A student, as you pointed out, costs more than $20,000. So you can have a whole bunch of students who are non-switchers, and we can still have an affordable system. But we really want to make sure that we're not losing sight of the main goal. And that main goal is, are we actually getting students to a bright future?
Right. Just in terms of the numbers, though, 52, 55 for an EFA from the state, 61, 61 for public school from the state. So not the 20,000, just the 61, 61.
Well, it is, and it's 20,000 that comes from taxpayers, because you got to remember, for that student who's in that public school system, as you pointed out in the beginning of this series or this set, it costs $20,000, right? So the taxpayers, who are the ones who are paying for students, are paying $20,000 for a student in a traditional public high school, and the taxpayers are paying $5,200 for a student who's in an education freedom account.
I see what you're saying with that. And can we briefly just touch upon the first question about this? Is, would you like to see this program expanded to every student in the state?
So I think what we need to do is we need to, over time, we need to migrate to a system that funds students, not systems, right? Because our goal is not to support a system, it's to support students' education. So whatever that environment is that that student can be successful, that's where we should be investing our money.
So hearing that, where does public schooling fall into this? Is public schooling still the most important option and the thing that should take up the bulk of the department's time?
Yeah, so, well, I mean, all of the students are what's taking up our time. So it's not it's interesting the way you premise that question. It's not this or this, it's what works for the student. And quite frankly, I spend a lot of my time working with our school leaders to get them to adopt new policies that will make them the right answer for that student, right? We want our public schools to become the schools of choice. And if you think about that, we've got our charter schools, so all of our public charter schools are all public schools. And almost every one of my public charter schools right now has a wait list of parents wanting to get into them. And so there's no reason why the traditional public school can't adopt some of the same pedagogical instructional methods that those charter schools are using, so that parents are saying like, hey, I want to come here.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what we want to do, is we want to basically make sure that we're funding educational approaches that meet the needs of the students.
And in the remaining time, I did want to ask you quickly about the new rules and guidelines that are being proposed for minimum standards. The nerd talk is they're ED 306s.
Yes.
There are some interesting proposed changes. One of them would remove a reference to a maximum class size, which is currently 25 for the youngest students, 30 for older students. Do you think that's a good idea to remove the requirements to cap a class size?
Yeah. So essentially, these rules are in the rulemaking process. They were just initially adopted by the State Board of Education about 2 weeks ago. They've got to go through the full rulemaking process, and so we'll have lots of public input on that. But really thinking about local control, right? Who knows best how big that class should be other than that local, the local control? The average class size in New Hampshire today is about 12.7 students, but there's a lot of variability there. And so what you may find is that some, instructional classes, some instructional environments, they can probably have more students. Some need less students. And so what we really need to do is look at our learners and figure out how many learners can we make successful in this particular class, rather than the state trying to superimpose from the top. Like that top-down method never seems to be successful.
And so, just to kind of wrap this all up, local control is still really important here in New Hampshire when it comes to schools.
It is to me.
Okay. Commissioner Frank Edelblut, thanks so much for your time this morning.
Thank you.